Many new dialects and languages came into the ken of this Viking boy, and he listened and learned. In the instinctual mode of early childhood, he attuned himself to the living rhythms of the trees, the birds, and the animals. He felt depleted when noisy people encroached with their assertive explanations and with ideas, ideals, and prejudices, all in various desire vibrations. He would become wearied with all these humans, so filled with bubbling desires, effervescent ego willfulness, and vital ego antics. Even if each individual had a language of her or his own, a vibrational and unconscious one, in comparison with nature, they all seemed noisy, assertive, and tiresome. It was not that I was critical and analytical in attitude, nor too consciously wearied to know the cause of my frequent depletion. Humans were accepted as a form of life, but while the organic language of nature did not disturb or drain my silence, the noisy, willful language of the unnatural humans caught and held my attention and put silence and unitive awareness in abeyance. I saw vibrationally and instinctually, rather than in conscious sympathy. If I was violated by others, its source was almost unconscious to me, and utterly so to the emotional and mental intruders. Their rhythms were accepted as part of life, and if they were not enthusiastically embraced, they were at least tolerated and endured. So I listened vibrationally and vicariously lived thousands of lives. I learned the diverse languages of fellow beings and the various rhythms in which life expressed. There was no wish to speak the language of other fellow pilgrims, as this would have felt false to me, nor was there any urge to find a way to express myself through words. Some languages were interesting, others seemed dull, but listening and learning were useful kinds of disciplines, conducive to flexibility, tolerance, and patience. Was it not St. Paul who suffered fools gladly? One may suffer even intellectuals gladly. All life is lovable if it can be viewed as an ever-changing form. The wearisome to a passive listener is in the repetition and sameness of the surface play, of the oft-told reminiscences, which is like a record on a gramophone going on and on and on. One has no choice but to attend to it. There's no use trying to ignore it or withdraw attention. The whole psychic body of the passive soul is open and exposed, and cannot concentrate or shut out the noise. Interest deepened when I realized that only my mind need listen to the surface play of word language, while I could attune to sensing the vibrations below and beyond in the language of being. I quickly saw that most often wordy explanations were the conscious or unconscious disguises for feelings hidden underneath. Vibrationally, vicariously, and intuitively, I could momentarily live the lives of thousands of fellow pilgrims and could know not only their fleeting moods and antics, but their depths. Through silence, empathy, compassion, and by becoming them vibrationally, if only for a moment, I could know them livingly. It felt like this knowing by identity was the true knowledge of egos and of psyches, And it also revealed the unity between fellow pilgrims and all other forms of life. I saw that trying was of no use. It was fatal for self-knowledge. For with my efforts and attempts, there crept in the desires and attachments that blurred my inner vision. But in pure passivity and in silence, the consummation just was. Only when the muddy water of the mind was let be and the choppy waves of the emotions were stilled, could the mirror of the lake effortlessly reflect that which I vainly tried to see and to know. I could know livingly and vibrationally through self-identification. It is well to be able to go in and to go out of consciousness calmly, balanced, and still. In the deepest sense, the real, which is also the all, the everything, and the no-thing, is within. That which conceives, recollects, and recognizes the self outside is already within, or else there could be no recognition, no conceiving. But many individuals seem to only be able to play through the extroverted modes of ego antics and power politics. And then their only rest from this frenzied assertion would be through the surface waves of words. When in childhood I retreated from playing, it was often to a liberating sense of ease and of right relatedness, and to a glad inward feeling of being warmly welcomed to healing, living harmonies. Photographic plates changed after contemplation. In the dark cave within, the pictures became clear or even vanished. Were the memories, the contacts, and the correspondences valid and vital enough when exposed to a calm and still light? Were they really worthwhile repeating? Should they be treasured through re-experiencing? Or could the pictures be put into the wastebasket of oblivion? Had they real content and meaning, or were they idle and trivial shadow plays? From the vantage point of true memory, the feverish assertions and ego antics, so eager, by both my own and others, they would seem futile, evanescent, and tiresome, a queer kind of dis-ease that had to be silently accepted and lived through. As long as we are addicted to the joys of playing on the surface Leela, the only time out from the wear and tear of our learned ignorance is the rest we call sleep, and the sleep we call death. The dream of life lasts a little longer than does the dream of sleep, but both are unreal. The less we are aware of eternity, of true remembrance and silence, and the life that comprises birth and death, the more deaths do we need. The mystery of how a unified consciousness can become double is as subtle as the mysteries of creation and growth. In my case, the fall, as it were, was a gradual affair, and ego consciousness only clipped the wings of true memory after a prolonged period of time. In my rhythm, there was but little urge to mentalize, analyze, understand, or assert what I knew. Because there were so few conflicts, the growing ego was not truculent nor pugnacious, and had few ambitions or even goals. In solitude, there was little opposition, and so little chance of growing a robust ego. And until the physical age of 14, in spite of school and people, I had a good deal of solitude at work and at play. There was no loneliness in solitude, and work was a kind of play. The play within was only slightly imaginative, fanciful, or dreamy. It was a living, unitive whole, a contemplative non-duality, where all of life was playfully experienced. In my usual mode of being, I was not brooding or stilled in meditation, nor fixed in concentration, nor busy in puzzling things out. There was a freedom which was neither introverted nor extroverted. There were thought feelings rather than thoughtfulness, and at times the unitive awareness beyond thought and beyond desires. All other modes were there intermittently, but solitude was the one in which I felt most at home, suffused by healing wholeness and harmonious silence. If the noisy ones could have seen my solitude, they might have termed me dreamy, but as they could not aware this side of me, I appeared to them, though not ambitious nor brilliant, sufficiently attentive, responsive, and practical. I was a fairly good listener, even to tedious tales, patient of ego antics, tolerant of frailty and foibles, uncondemning of blunders and of so-called sins. I had a certain calm balance, both in success and in calamities. No fuss or flutter, but a practical simplicity in making the best of all situations. I was simple, economical, and anti-waste.